Hey guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today I'm joined with my client Harry. Now, Harry's been with me for a while. He's had some fantastic success since joining the program. So today we're going to talk about that. Harry, mate, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Feeling good.
Good.
Obviously, post triathlon, it was a interesting week, kind of balancing recovery and
Yeah.
letting myself go a little bit. So yeah, back to it this
Good.
week and getting back to the grind really.
Spot on, mate. So I always like to start these off, these like almost client success stories, by asking you guys to give a little bit of a background on where you were before joining the program. So if you don't mind, mate, let us know obviously a bit about yourself. So maybe what you do for work, and of course where you were before the program.
Yeah, so just for work, I come from a maintenance engineering background, so I have a fairly hands-on job. Sort of 12 months before I started the program, I sustained quite a nasty spinal injury, which kind of took me off my legs completely for I'd say around 3 months. I slipped two of the discs in my back and was suffering really badly from sciatica and things like that. And then just kind of following on from that, I really struggled to kind of get back into any routine with fitness. I had a lot of reoccurrences of the injury and things like that. Um, I put quite a lot of weight on. Found I was becoming quite lazy. It was affecting things like my job. I was struggling to, just simple things, get up in the morning and, motivate myself to do the little things. Um, so that's when obviously I found yourself and decided to kind of join up to the journey and go from there really. So yeah.
Spot on. I think when you say it like that, mate, it was a hard starting point. Like I think injuries are always something you have to be way more specific with, like especially a specific injury like you've had. And yeah, joining the program, you were in a position where, like, I remember you saying that you've tried sort of training before, and then you've had like recurring injuries, and every single time you've sort of gone into the gym, it's ended up just going back to square one and picking up injuries, which was never good for you. Talk to us a little bit about that. What was that like? That must have been frustrating, right?
Yeah, it was frustrating. And I think I've learned a lot with yourself because I was very much all or nothing. So
Mm.
I would be going straight into lifting heavy weights, straight into really intense running. And that's kind of where I was making the mistakes.
Yeah,
So to have you to come in and kind of say, look, let's start really slow. Let's work on the base, the foundation.
yeah.
There's no need to go, heavy or um, the goal here really is to just sustain, and that's what we've managed to do. So yeah,
Mm. Definitely, mate. And how did you find it transitioning from, because you were working at a physio with a physio at the time, right? So how did you
yeah,
find, because like a lot of people I would speak to in that situation, and of course it all depends because everyone's in different situations when it comes to injuries. Some are obviously more niche than others. But how did you find working with the physio, but then also working with myself? Because there was obviously that little bit of almost communication that had to be done
yeah.
quite.
No, it was great. I mean, it helped me stay accountable as well, and obviously I was able to send you my physio's notes and my physio's plan, the exercise I was doing, and we incorporated them sort of into our plan,
Yeah.
and kind of managed to progress them to a next step that maybe the physio couldn't. So it was a nice transition over
Mm.
to carry on building and obviously carrying on with the actual physio itself.
Definitely.
Um, Whereas, if I'd have just gone for physio for 6 weeks, at the end of the 6 weeks, it would have been, a
Mm.
dead stop there.
Yeah.
Um, but with yourself, we managed to kind of progress that
Mm.
and work on it and get it even better.
Yeah, spot on. And I think it was interesting because I want to talk back like to the point where you did originally sign up. What was your thoughts going into that? Because I have obviously calls to different people, and some people are almost shy away from the process, and then some people like go, you know what, I'm going to do this, I'm going to invest in myself. Like I feel like you'll have to remind me, but I feel like you maybe were a little bit hesitant.
Yeah,
Um,
I was very hesitant. I think it was
yeah,
more on my own commitment
yeah,
because I had the injury. Um, I was very worried of something reoccurring and obviously not being able to kind of continue with the
yeah,
plan. Um, so again, I think that's where it was great to have you kind of telling me to, keep things steady and we're in it for, the long run rather than just diving straight into it and things like that. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And why did you think then was the best time? Because you could have said, you know what, Jacob, I'm going to wait an extra few weeks
Yeah,
until I've done with the physio, or like why did you, or maybe you could have like joined a while ago. Like why did you feel that that was the right time to go, right, I'm biting the bullet and I'm doing it?
I think it was just that point in my life. I was fed up of, I'm 28. Some say coming into prime years, and it was probably the most unfit I've ever been in my life.
Mm,
Whereas, I want to be in my peak years as fit as I possibly can be, and
yeah.
I thought that was the necessary step to kind of get over the injury and really motivate me to, you know, be the best that I can be fitness wise.
Mm,
And there was a big health motivation there. I was struggling um, with some health issues as well. To do a lot to do with stress and anxiety and that sort of thing, and
mm,
it's really helped me pull through that as well.
brilliant.
Um, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Glad to hear that, mate. I think a lot of people, I've worked with a lot of people that have, if people that have been on medication for anxiety or depression, and I think that,
yeah,
yeah, exercise and having a goal to work towards and ticking them boxes daily that gets you closer there definitely does help. Um, Okay, cool. So I think obviously across the journey, and it's been quite a long journey getting you from obviously that starting position to where you've been now. So when you did join the program, talk to me about obviously the goals that we set. Like when you told me where you wanted to be by the end of say how long we were working together for, tell the people that are watching this the goals that you had.
yeah. So I think the main goal for me was to be able to one, lose some body fat,
Yeah.
which we've more than achieved.
Mm,
But was to get into a healthy routine, healthy lifestyle. Obviously, get my general fitness back, and not go straight back to square one because like I've said a couple of times now, I'm always all or nothing and end up
mm,
going back to square one. So I think sustaining it was a big thing for me,
yeah.
which we've managed to do now, and getting the times that I did on the triathlon was just an absolute
Yeah.
bonus for me.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think I would have done that without you. It's quite. I was really pleased with the time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's talk about that triathlon. So obviously, when you joined, that was a big goal. You'd done triathlons before,
yeah,
but I think a big one for this one was like, right, let's do it. Let's make sure that you don't get injured because you were already sort of navigating that.
yeah,
And I know a big thing for you was like once you do an event, you're committed, like you say, with that probably that all or nothing mentality. But then when you
mhm,
don't have an event, you almost feel like a bit flat. And like after an event, you're like, what's next?
yeah.
So, yeah, what I would say, first of all, let's go back to the actual training side of leading up to the triathlon. What what changed in terms of the training that I provided to you and how sort of the whole program works in comparison to what you've done in the past alone?
So again, it gave me a massive insight into a lot of different ways to train.
Mm,
Just simple things like the heart rate zones, the
mm,
intensity that you train in, and that you don't need to train all the time at a high intensity.
no.
So that knowledge you have passed down to me,
Mm,
um, has been valuable to me.
good.
Just because when I was doing the actual triathlon itself, I understand the heart rate zones and things like that a lot more.
Yeah.
And just not to how to train, but not to overdo myself as well.
Mm,
Um, because again, I keep going back to it, but I would be doing intense sessions every day. But
mm.
you've really gave me that insight into making sure I'm sticking to my zone two, low intensity, and they're just as valuable as your strength sessions and all the other sessions that we do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I was
so
gonna say like a lot of people that join and that's normal, mate. Like a lot of people come with the same mentality, and it would make sense. Like you think logically, well, if you just work harder, then surely that means that you're going to get fitter. But yeah, typically, obviously there's reasons behind the low intensity work and building the foundations, but also from an injury standpoint, like if you're just always just high stress response all the time, there's only so
yeah,
much like of course your body can take. Um, So let's talk about like the nutrition side of things when it comes to the lead up. How did you find that?
hard initially
Mm. Yeah,
because there is no sort of cap to what I was eating beforehand.
right.
So then to go straight into a calorie deficit, it was really eye opening
Yeah,
to how many calories I was actually consuming compared to how many I actually needed.
yeah,
Um, but I think after the initial 4 to 6 weeks of being in a calorie deficit, I found myself not starting to lose appetite, but I wasn't finding myself. I was getting used to it,
Mm,
so I didn't need to consume as much food as probably what I would have before.
yeah.
And something that again you push as well is trying to consume the right foods, rather than having something that's a lot lower calories. You know, you can get a lot more volume if you're eating the right sort of
Yeah.
foods and things like that. So it's really opened my eyes up to the right types of foods and things like that. Um,
Yeah, nice. And I think that there's also that like balance when someone has like a performance goal like you have clients that do obviously running, clients that like yourself do triathlon. I think it's important to find that balance between being in a deficit and like optimizing for performance. And then there has to be something said for the closer you get to competition, your training sessions get a bit harder, the volume increases, a bit more intensity there. Then of course you have to then make sure the nutrition aligns with that performance and that increase in demand on the body. But also to make sure that on the day that you're fresh, right? Like you need to make sure that your body's fueled up. Hence why we had the call and went through the bits ready for the day. Let's talk through the actual day itself then. So obviously we did like a bit of a prep call, but in comparison to your previous experience with the triathlon and this time round, talk us through the results in terms of the times that you got, but also maybe how you felt on the day from a preparation standpoint.
yeah, so I think obviously going through the prep with yourself was extremely helpful. Just things from how many gels I should be having, energy gels,
Yeah.
through to timing for breakfast and things like that. Again, really helped me prepare.
Mm.
Something that you mentioned was not to rush into it and go too hard on the first event, which was the
Well,
swim,
yeah.
which again really helped me on my final run. And I managed to get a really good time for the run as well, which I was very shocked at, but
Yeah.
very pleased at the same time. Um, so yeah, it just helped me get a different perspective because I would have gone all out and probably
Mm.
knackered myself up within the first 8 minutes of the swim.
Yeah.
But having you there to say, look, this is probably going to be the best thing for you, was definitely what I needed.
Mm. And I think, mate, that it's the case that sometimes it is a case of like slowing down rather than thinking you need to speed up because it's an endurance event. The swim was like what I think you ended up doing it in 7.5 minutes, something like
Yeah.
that. In comparison to how long it's going to take to do the bike and the run, which say are around half an hour. Yeah, like you say, just blasting through that swim is going to tax the run and the bike, which is going to be a much longer part of the event. And what was your overall time in comparison to previous experience?
So previously I've only done the single events. So I think I got 116.
Mm.
I was aiming for 120 to be honest.
Mm.
So I'm a lot more pleased with that. I think the bike the last time I did it was 42 minutes.
Yeah.
And I managed to do it in 37. So that was a single event before. So even with doing the swim before, I managed to do the bike in less than 5 minutes,
Cool.
um, which was great. Um, and again, the swim. I think. Oh, I told you I was worried about the
Yeah.
swim
Yeah.
time. Um, Again, probably because the training I did before wasn't the right kind of training, and I actually
Mm.
really surprised myself. And probably you as well on the swim this time. So
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No,
um,
and then obviously finishing off with a 5K PB on
yeah,
tired legs and bodies is
yeah,
amazing. And I think like with these races, it's definitely like pacing is so important when it comes to making sure that obviously you're going to get the time that you want. But I think the main thing with you in the training was the lower intensity work and building up the volume safely, the strength work from an injury perspective to make sure we can sort of progress nicely through from a position where you've got an injury to strengthening the muscles around the area,
yeah,
and allowing you to basically perform your exercises safely. And then having a few of them sessions that just move the needle, a few sort of intense sessions like your threshold work, with obviously the quality sessions we did the swim, as we started to do maybe some transition work, bike to run transition, stuff like that. I think they're the type of sessions that really move the needle. But I think what built the base that allowed your fitness to develop probably the most without even realizing it is the lower intensity work that you managed to be consistent with, which is super important, mate. So hats off to you for that. Um, Question to you, Harry, would be what would you say has been like the biggest mindset shift since doing this whole journey?
Um, I'm not sure really. I think, like you're saying, is keep motivated.
Mm.
Um, the one thing I wanted to do is get healthier. So that's been kind of my biggest mindset change.
Yeah.
Um, I think I need to get back into it a bit more than what I have been sort of before the triathlon. But
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely. And like around that health, because a lot of people like health is a focus for them too. Why is that so important to you though? Because some people will go, maybe they're not as focused on their health. Like, why was that such a key driver for you to get going with this?
yeah. I suppose a lot of it ties down to being there for my family and wanting to belong. My sort of my relationships with my family, and my partner's pregnant at the minute, so being the best kind of person I can be
Yeah.
for obviously her and the baby as well is always important for me. So that's had a big factor to kind of play in it. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And also, mate, like because I think this is will be an important one because people always say to me they're super busy and they don't have time. Like, how are you managing such a busy work week with then family commitments? And how are you still managing to do all of this?
I think it's about having the right type of sessions. Obviously, it is difficult, but again, if you want to reach these goals, you've got to put the effort in. Again, I tend to do home workouts a lot more because it fits my schedule. And running from home is something that I like to do
Yeah,
a bit more now, just to make it a little bit more easier.
yeah,
Uh, but it's something you've got to find time to do. Otherwise, it's you're never going to spend time on yourself. You always put a lot of time into. I think we had a conversation about how much time we put into work and things like that.
mm,
Um, and I've kind of gone the other way this year. Spent less time at work,
yeah.
more time focusing on myself and focusing
Yeah.
on the things that are realistically going to improve my life for the better. So
Yeah, yeah. It's finding that balance. Everyone has their own balance, and I think that everyone should spend time thinking like what is their balance, and maybe it comes through a bit of trial and error. But I think, like you said, maybe the last couple of weeks before the triathlon, maybe I don't know, motivation dipped a bit, or there's always people always have personal reasons and reasons why
yeah,
maybe they don't feel as motivated with it all. But the question to you next, mate, was gonna, and by the way, that is normal. Like everyone has phases
yeah,
where like progression. I should say this is never just going to be linear. Like I have times where the missus annoys me and then I'm frustrated about something and I can't bother to train whatever, or I've slept bad and then my training's not great. Like it's so normal. Like some days you're motivated, some days you're not. So
yeah.
what does the future look like for you though? Like after this triathlon, after smashing a PB, you obviously made a progression from a physique standpoint too, some weight loss. Where do you want to go from here?
Yeah, so obviously I was racing against my dad in the triathlon.
Yeah,
So he's 60 years old, just recovering from cancer, and I managed to beat him by 3 minutes. And now he's called on to do a trilogy. So I'm aiming again to do another triathlon at the end of the year,
nice,
and then finish the trilogy next April on the same event that I did this year.
nice.
So that's kind of the long term goal. One thing it's done is made me want to beat the time that I've got this year.
Hmm.
So I really want to push myself next towards the end of the year and next year to be better,
Yeah,
really.
brilliant.
Um, but I think for the short term, for the summer, I want to kind of focus on physique,
Yeah,
building a bit of muscle
yeah.
and going from there, really.
Brilliant. Love it. Amazing, mate. And final two questions is out of this whole program, since you've been part of it, what do you think have been the aspects of it that have made the biggest difference to your journey?
I think having the tailor made focus sessions, because again, I would have done a lot of exercises that probably wouldn't have been
Hmm.
great for my injury.
Yeah,
So to have you to be able to kind of tailor, just things like doing front squats rather than back squats, so I'm not loading my spine as much.
yeah,
Um, that's something I would have never, considered,
yeah,
and probably ended up, re-injuring myself and things like that.
mm,
So I think that's been the biggest point, really.
yeah,
Um, Obviously the check-ins and holding me accountable for
mm,
if I miss anything, if I'm not tracking my food, my nutrients, my macros, that's kind of thing.
Mm.
Having you there to kind of give me a kick up the backside always helps.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah. No, I love it, mate. Fantastic. And what would you say to someone who's maybe thinking about, and I don't need you to like just go, just do it, just like you don't have to say that, but
Yeah.
what's your sort of thoughts on if someone's on the fence and they're thinking, I think I want to get some help, but I'm not too sure, should I do it now? I'm busy, whatever. They've got a million and one excuses. What would you say to that person?
I think, like I said before, the key thing for me was I spend a lot of time doing things for other people. I used to come home from work, answer emails, so an hour on an evening,
Mm,
and just give that 45 minutes to an hour back to yourself.
mm,
It only has to be 3 or 4 times a week.
yeah.
When in reality, if you look at how much time you spend doing other things that aren't going to, you know, invest in yourself,
Mm.
it will help you out a lot more if you put that time into yourself.
Definitely. No, love it, mate. Fantastic. All right, Harry. Well, yeah, massive well done on everything that you've achieved in the program so far. And hopefully we'll have another one of these soon when maybe you've smashed through the triathlon and hit another big PB and won the trilogy.
Yeah, fingers
Class,
crossed.
top man. Appreciate your time. All right, Harry. I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Cheers, thanks,
Take care,
mate.
pal. Bye, mate.
Speak
Bye
to you
bye.
later.